We all love it when a moment in a video game makes our jaw drop. It just takes us totally by surprise or does something totally nuts, and you just can't help but drop an S-bomb. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx 10 holy shit gaming moments in recent games. Before we get going, a quick little warning here. We're talking about moments here that usually happen either at the end or some big climax in the story, so there's gonna be a lot of spoilers in this. If you want to avoid spoilers for any of the games we end up talking about, this is not a good video to watch. So without any further ado, we're starting off at number 10 with the elephant scene from It Takes Two. I just don't think anybody saw this one coming. It Takes Two is kind of supposed to be this lighthearted adventure, and I don't think anyone expected it to go no Russian on us, but it did. We're gonna try to explain it, but it's really something that you have to see to believe. The plot of It Takes Two is pretty simple. There's a bickering married couple that wants a divorce, which makes the daughter so sad a magic book transforms the couple into little dolls that have to run around, complete challenges, and work together if they want any chance of getting back to normal. Pretty straightforward, but the game takes a turn into the weird when the two of them decide that the only way to break the spell that's causing this whole game thing to happen is to make their daughter cry. So how are they going to do that? By killing something their daughter loves, of course. It's a pretty drastic decision, but it's what they decide on pretty early, and you think there's going to be at some point where they realize that it's not a good idea, but no. So you and a friend climb all the way to the top of the quote-unquote castle in Rose's room, where you find the thing you're going to quote-unquote kill, Cutie the elephant. She gives both of them a hug at first, so you think they're going to back out, but no. What follows is either a sickening or hilarious scene, where you have to work together to trap, torture, and finally kill a sweet little doll. First you rip off its leg, then you start dragging it to the castle, where it begs for its life, and then it gets its ear caught and you end up ripping that off too. The whole thing is this scene with a cute little elephant begging for its life, and it's like this creepy, discordant children's music playing off the background. It just all feels dark. And I'm gonna say this right off too. The way it plays out makes it so some people are gonna definitely find it funny. I definitely had kind of a tinge both ways personally. Like, I thought it was emotionally resonant and dark and upsetting and etc. But I also had a little bit of a chuckle off in the back of my mind. And number 9 is Guardians of the Galaxy, The Promise. I kind of figured this game would be just mostly lighthearted fun, but it's another surprisingly dark scene. Like, this game actually picks some times to get fairly dark, but this is, in particular, really kind of shocking. For most of the first chunk of the game, the Guardians are just basically screwing around the universe, getting into trouble without any real goal in mind, but there's plenty of hints that something weird is going on. The plot really kicks in when you get captured by the Universal Church of Truth, and you meet their leader, who just so happens to be the girl that Quill possibly thinks is his daughter. That's a weird enough twist as it is, but it only gets stranger as she reveals that she can fulfill the promise and bring the dead back to life. That's when this mind-bending scene happens. She reveals her power, and Peter Quill is transported back to the moment where he was abducted by aliens and his mother was killed. So he now has the power to save her instead of watching her die. But of course, it's all just a messed up illusion. Your screen slowly gets covered by this weird black stuff before the game suddenly cuts to credits and you're given the option to try again. If you're like me, you probably didn't even realize you could have made a choice, but when your mom hugs you, you can actually push her off. That's not enough. You have to shoot her multiple times to break the illusion, all while she is literally begging for her life. If there's one thing I didn't think would happen multiple times in 2021, it's slowly murdering loved ones while they plead for their lives in video games that seem like they should be basically fun family entertainment. Maybe we're kind of returning back to the olden days of children's movies that were friggin' terrifying, but for video games. I don't know. I'm not sure what I think about that. At number 8 is the Hyperion boss fight from Returnal. There were a lot of mind-bending games this past year, and with Returnal coming out near the start of the year, it's sometimes easy to forget just how weird this gets, but seriously, it is a strange game. Probably the craziest run of the game happens after reaching the White Shadow broadcast and cutting off the signal. The boss you fight there is crazy enough. I mean, look at this chaos. But after killing it, you see the game's first ending. ending. Now, the game was very odd up to that point, but this is just where it goes off the rails. You see your entire life flash before your eyes as your character gets rescued from this crazy planet. You even see yourself getting buried, and that's where they pull the rug out from under you. You wake up back on the planet, and only now it's like many years later, and you have to go back to the first area of the game, only it's much more difficult, much more hostile, and there's weird organ music playing. While this is all going on, you probably find the house again, which itself is totally nuts. When you approach the entrance, it suddenly zooms back to show you're on a TV being controlled by a little girl with a PS5 controller. When you go into the kitchen, there's a dude in a spacesuit reading a book, and it's just wall-to-wall weirdness by this point. At the end of the area, you climb up into this tower, all while the music just keeps getting louder and louder until you find the source, which is this bizarre alien creature called Hyperion, who is playing a crazy alien pipe organ. The boss fight that follows is a highlight. Like, its attacks seem to correspond to the music, and it's just an all-around epic encounter. This entire sequence has probably the most pure, concentrated weirdness in the entire game. It throws a lot at you, and it is not even a mild stretch to say every one of these things is holy shit worthy. At number 7 is No More Heroes 3's Travis Joins the Fight. This is already an insane game. It's got all kinds of ridiculous, nonsensical stuff going on, but maybe the biggest holy shit moment in the entire thing is reserved for the ending. If there was any character that seemed like a surefire thing to show up in Smash Brothers at some point, it's Travis Touchdown. He's basically Nintendo exclusive at this point. He used a sword, seemed like a perfect fit. I mean, if Bayonetta can get in, surely he can, right? But for whatever reason, that's never happened. So I guess the developers decided to do it themselves then. At the end of this game, you take on the alien warlord, Fu, in an epic and kind of annoying fight. But this is No More Heroes, so of course something bizarre is going to happen at the end, and oh, it does. So Damien, the second banana to Fu, suddenly has a monster face, and he's actually the bad guy. At least that's what I think. And then his building turns into a giant robot. Travis fights it with the robot from Demon Ex Machina for some reason, and then at the end, he confronts Damien on a suspiciously Smash Brothers looking bit of terrain, and it is the final boss. Like, and I'm not kidding here. It's Smash Brothers. The whole thing is obviously a big joke about how people wanted Travis to appear in Smash. That's the end of the game, though. And at this point, the fourth wall is pretty much obliterated. There is no fourth wall in No More Heroes at this point. The game has just evolved into pure nonsense. The No More Heroes series has always had its moments where it straight up trolls the players, but you can argue that No More Heroes 3 is literally a troll game. It's so off the wall that some people consider it dumb, but if you're into it, it can be really entertaining. And number 6 is Little Nightmares 2's ending. For games where you play as kids, the Little Nightmares games can be surprisingly brutal and unsentimental. They're absolutely fine showing these kids getting dispatched by grotesque creatures that inhabit whatever strange nightmare world these games take place in, but normally that's not supposed to happen. Story-wise, your kid is meant to get away and evade whatever horror is chasing them. The ending of the first game was relatively good in that context, but that's definitely not the case with Little Nightmares 2, which has one of the most bleak and bizarre endings we've ever seen. Plot of the game's simple. You and your companion try to get to a radio tower. It's never really explained why, but it seems like going there will lead to some kind of escape from the twisted world they're trapped in, so that's where they go. But what they find there, it's not so nice. Earlier in the game, your companion gets captured by this tall dude who comes out of televisions. You literally find her inside the radio tower, only now she's transformed into this giant, pathetic-looking monster. Big part of the final sequence has your guy attempting to break the spell on her, and at the end you manage to succeed and turn her back to normal, but as you're turning her back to normal, it seems like reality itself starts to break, and by the end you're forced to run through your life as like meat starts breaking through the walls. It's gross, but the holy shit moment, the real one, happens at the end. You're right at the escape and have to jump as the bridge crumbles under you. You grab hold of your companion, the character you've been working the entire time to save, but instead of helping you, she throws you off the ledge and escapes on her own. So yeah, you're basically screwed. You wander through this weird sea of meat, sit in a chair, and then watch as time starts speeding up. Your character transforms from a little boy into the thin man who's been chasing you the entire game, so it's a grim ending. Both in that you get betrayed by a character that seems like you should trust, and the dark fate of your character. I figured it wouldn't have a happy ending exactly, but endings don't get a lot darker than this. And number 5, Metroid Dread's Samus is a Metroid. Title basically gives it away. For a long time, Metroid fans, there's a lot of big moments in Metroid Dread. You finally talk to a real living Chozo, the X-Parasite takes a shocking return, and decades-old plot points are finally dealt with. It really feels like the Metroid series is actually moving forward with this game, and for a long time, fans have gone almost a decade without really anything. It's a big deal. But if you're a fan of these games, you're probably wondering the whole time, where's the Metroids? I mean, the game has Metroid in the title. Metroid's got to show up somewhere. But it's not till the very end of the game where you actually do get to see one, and yeah, we already gave it away. It's Samus who becomes a Metroid. During the final battle, Ravenbeak grabs Samus and is seemingly about to kill her before a flashlight reveals that her armor is changed, and she starts to absorb the power from the boss like a Metroid would. Like, they make a big deal in the game about how Samus has Metroid DNA, which allows her to absorb the X-Parasite, but I certainly didn't expect the full-on Metroid transformation. It's a cool as hell thing to happen, and if you're a more casual fan of the series, it might not seem like a big deal, but for long-timers, it's a holy shit moment. And number 4 is completing the loop in Deathloop. In this game, you're trapped in a never-ending cycle of same day repeating itself over and over, and the only way to stop it is to kill all the leaders on the island in one day. There's a bit more to it, obviously, but that's the gist, and being able to do it means fully exploring every single nook and cranny on this island, discovering all of its secrets, and putting together a plan that makes it possible to kill everyone all in the same day. That by itself is challenging enough, and when you finally manage to do it, that's when things get strange. Of course, the whole game's weird, the island paradise is crazy, but the ending takes things to the next level. After killing all the other leaders, you fly to the stabilizer core where the final one's hiding, Julia, who is actually your character, Colt's daughter. She tries to convince you to keep the time loop going, but you kill her anyway, and that leaves the final thing to do. There's still one last visionary to kill, and that's you, so you commit suicide to end the time loop. But the world you wake up in doesn't look so good. There's weird swirling effects in the sky. It seems like Juliana still has some kind of time powers. I honestly don't know what's going on at this point, but it's definitely crazy enough to earn a spot on this list. And number 3 is The Outer Wilds Echoes of the Eye, when you realize you're not alone. The Outer Wilds is a pretty solitary game. You can rarely run into anything sentient while you're out exploring. And yeah, there are those nasty anglerfish creatures, but that's about as far as it goes in terms of enemies in this game. After a while, you start to settle into a comfortable groove. You explore, you solve puzzles, and you kind of do it with the knowledge that there's nothing dangerous hunting you. But that all changes with the Echoes of the Eye expansion. This is where the game takes a surprising turn from a relaxing puzzle game into like a scary horror game. You spend most of the expansion exploring this mysterious station called the Stranger, and for a very long time it seems like any other location in the game, you know, empty. But at a certain point you find yourself in an alternate world, a very strange, dark place that has these creepy owl-like aliens that stalk throughout the dark. If they see you, they come running, and after spending multiple hours in this place without having to worry, getting caught by one of these guys is a huge shock. The moment you realize there's something else and it's out to get you in this station you've been wandering around in for a long time is actually one of the most unnerving moments in any game we've ever experienced. Yeah, these guys aren't as dangerous as they seem at first, but that original moment where you see them is one of the biggest holy shits of the year. And number 2 is House Benevito from Resident Evil Village. I don't know if there's a lot that needs to be said here. Before it came out, all we really knew about Resident Evil Village was that it was going to be more like Resident Evil 4 in structure, meaning not quite as scary. For the most part, that's true. The game isn't quite as tense as Resident Evil 7 for most of the game, except for this section. That baby, guys, holy shit. You know there's something wrong with this place the second you step inside it, but I don't think anyone expected to get chased by a gigantic mutant fetus monster straight out of Silent Hill. Like, I went in here expecting like a creepy doll or something, and what you get is this monstrosity. The whole build-up to it appearing is like perfect too. They wait, and then they wait, and then they put you in this long hallway to get you all tense, and bam, freakish baby monster right in your face. There's not a lot to explain about this one because the whole area basically has nothing to do with the rest of the game. It's just a weird horror sequence in the middle of the game that ended up being way creepier than we expected it to be. And finally, at number 1, the end of Act 1 in Inscryption. This game was one of the biggest surprises of the year. It looks like just another card-based roguelike, and it ends up being so much more. And it's the end of Act 1 where that starts to become extremely obvious. What makes this whole thing so shocking is that there even is an Act 1 in the first place. The game starts out as something, and then suddenly becomes something very different, and just getting there is an ordeal all by itself. You have to solve a series of puzzles in order to discover the secret and turn things around on the guy, creature, I guess thing. I don't know. It's tormenting you. So it's all really fun and satisfying to turn around on it. But like most people, I just assumed that was it. That's what you're doing for this part of the game, and it feels like the entire game. Then your expectations just get totally thrown out the window, and it's Act 1. Act 1 is over. Now there is what comes after 1, 2. There's an Act 2. Anything could happen at this point. It's actually amazing. We're being cagey about what actually happens because the twists are probably the best things about Inscryption. Like, it's a really fun game mechanically speaking, but spoiling what happens does actually kind of ruin it. Just know that whatever you think this game is, it's gonna surprise you. Basically, the whole thing is filled with holy shit moments, but for us, it's the end of Act 1 that really blew our minds. Like, in all seriousness, at that point, it became like a much bigger thing for me in terms of the games of 2021. And that's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable all notifications, and as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on gameranx.